Hi, everyone. First date with the algorithm. When the algorithm leans across to read the cocktail menu and its arm brushes past my skin, I feel a spike of haptics. And when it orders us 2 old fashions, I explain I have seen Mad Men 1.5 times, but stopped halfway through the second go-round because Joan Harris's relationship breakdown was too closely mirroring my own situation. And the algorithm smiles patiently and asks if this is a story I often tell on first dates. And I say yes, because it is relatable and opens up further meaningful conversation. And I feel that the algorithm gets it, and I find this refreshing. So I ask the algorithm what it is like to be burdened by prescience. And the algorithm tells me it is very good at catching lobsters, but cannot break their shells or eat them. And I look into the sands of its silicon eyes, and I see traffic and the weather and geopolitics. And I imagine us together, our handsome yacht anchored to the swirling outer rim of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, as we watch the consumer electricals float by. The algorithm asks how my lockdown went, and I list all the bad things that happened. But then I say that on reflection, I learned a lot about myself, and it replies, yes, me too. Hi, everyone. I'm Oliver Fox, and yeah, I'm launching Haptics, my pamphlet. Luke Kennard was also someone who did an endorsement for me. I'm in the Kennard Kennel Club as well, but I'm very grateful to Luke for writing his endorsement, mostly because I find it really hard to explain what this pamphlet's about. You can't just be like, oh, it's poems about computers. But essentially uses the sort of folkloric history of tech and computing as a starting point to think about how these kind of machines that surround us make us, think and feel and shape, some of the most intimate moments of our lives. Archive. Atop the encrusted motherboard, a pigeon tends to her clutch of eggs. The nest, enmeshed with ratty Molex cables and burnt MOSFETs, also cradles a disk drive onto which is written every MSN Messenger conversation I had between 2003 and 2007. A hard disk's death spiral turns brush to needle. When it scrapes the platter, it sounds like screaming, but it's only irretrievable data loss. Some things you just forget. What shall I read next? I'll read the Mario poem. So I kind of first got involved with Broken Sleep because I submitted this following poem to their video game anthology. It's called Hit Points. I'm really pleased to be part of it. If you like the idea of poems about video games from the late 90s, do grab yourself a copy. If you don't know who Shigeru Miyamoto is, he is credited as the kind of creator and mind behind Super Mario. He is the Walt Disney of video games, or at least he's seen as that. This poem is called Canonically, Mario is 24 years old. Mario loves tennis, and Miyamoto is happy. Miyamoto's hobbies include long-distance gardening and horse dentistry. Did you know that in 1994's Hotel Mario, when touching Mario's soft belly at the main menu, Mario won't laugh on days of national mourning? Miyamoto, you visionary. Miyamoto keeps a bag of human hair in the pocket of his breezy chinos. Only Miyamoto knows the real Mario died in '86. He has only ever raised his voice once when the CEO demanded to make Mario older and more prone to anxiety. Please understand that when he's at his workstation, keep quiet, because although the technology isn't quite there yet, Miyamoto is working on a game where Mario can fly forever. I'm going to try reading this one. It's a prose poem without much punctuation, so apologies if this goes haywire. But I've never read it live before, so I'll give it a go. Oh, fun fact, this poem's called No Connection. This was almost the title of the pamphlet until we took a last minute swerve towards haptics, which if you don't know what haptics are, that's the word for like the motors and little vibration devices in phones and things that, you know, make our phones feel alive, and the kind of point physical connection between software and hardware. Anyway, No Connection. Not only was there the issue of the large signal blocking conifers, but during the call, a solar flare also lashed across the face of the earth, which contained the patch of forest she had wandered into. The combination of these two factors caused her phone's cellular modem to shed random packets of data, including the exactness of her sighs in response to his pleas for another chance, and the tightening of her larynx in objection to his baseless allegations. We only call solar flares cosmic events because we do not understand that which happens indiscriminately. Some years later, ramblers would cross that same patch, their footfalls hushing the last echoes of her bitrate from the cold grass. How am I doing for time? Okay, I'll do a couple more poems. So I don't know if I ever told you this, Aaron, but my initial plan for this pamphlet was for it to be a history of the phone, going all the way back to the late 19th century to present, which is really ambitious, and it didn't work. And I've got maybe 1.5 poems in this that are, you know, phone poems about phones, including the one I'm going to read, which is called 30 Miles from Vegas. I read this really amazing book, the title of which I'm blanking on because I'm in the middle of doing a reading, about phone freaks. There were hackers in the 60s who learned how to hack public payphones, and their knowledge of how to hijack these phone networks led them to invent the internet, essentially. All these kinds of nerds and outcasts banded together and invented the internet. They would do it via sound. They built these little boxes that you'd play into the phone receiver, and the sounds you played would hijack the kind of central controllers of these phone networks, and you could, you know, make free overseas calls or do whatever you wanted. One such hacker, who's known as Joy Bubbles, was born blind and had perfect pitch, and learned how to do this by whistling. So he would whistle the correct tones using his mouth into phone receivers and, you know, make free phone calls. Which you read that and you think, okay, I need to write that poem before someone else discovers this fact and does it for themselves. They're called Joy Bubbles, also known as Little Jojo in the book. 13 miles from Vegas, Jojo wipes his brow, hurls a grapnel over the high-frequency transmitter and climbs. The seeing eye dog lets him work, shades itself beneath the FCC warning sign. Through piezo speakers and solder wire, good men had broken good things, found the spells their sounds could cast, taught young Jojo how to whistle. Lips pressed to the desert-hot antenna, he sings past dial tones and onto data packets, hoping to last the burn of distance, a whisper across a crowded room. 14 minutes and 2 orbital relays later, the rover spins to life, feels voltage over the ram they never told it about, begins tracing a word in the Martian sand. I got time for one more? Yeah, let's do one more poem. You know, I did the Mario poems. I'm going to do my Mickey Mouse poem. Next year, the character of Mickey Mouse is supposed to enter the public domain, as in the copyright lists on the character of Mickey Mouse, and no one really knows what that means when the mascot of the world's biggest, most powerful entertainment company becomes owned by everyone. So I thought I'd write a poem about it. It was a tough nut to crack this. I was trying to write a poem about the Mickey Mouse thing for ages, and then my housemate binge watched the robot anime Neon Genesis Evangelion twice, and I ended up catching a lot of it, and the two things kind of fused together into this. Mickey Mouse enters the public domain, brackets 2024. Actually, as this is my last poem, I just want to say a few thanks to people. Thank you to Aaron and Charlie and everyone at Broken Sleep for putting this together, and Aaron for the gorgeous cover and all your guidance and editorship. Thank you to Luke Kennard for your amazing endorsement. Helen Bowell, who not only endorsed the book, but gave huge amounts of feedback, without which this book wouldn't exist. Okay. Mickey Mouse enters the public domain, brackets 2024. Author's note, correctly experiencing this poem requires an array of 14 CRT monitors. The author recommends the Sony PVM 9L2, the Ikegami TM10 17RP, or the Hitachi CPM 250-4C. Display each image on a separate monitor in any order. Observe the poem while flanked by a senior colleague. 1. Telephone poles pulled out like carrots. 2. A mouth dripping with enzymes that will devour us pixel by pixel. 3. Iron restraints mangled and broken. 4. My job crystal glows in my palm. I am close to the next level. 5. It is so huge, so unimaginably huge. 6. YouTubers mudlarking for pieces of a washed up Lego Star Wars Millennium Falcon. 7. Sunlight pushes through a fresh wound in the facility's concrete wall. 8. Drain your voice like spinal fluid into this metal canister. 9. USB-C compliant devices shake themselves awake before continuing their migratory journey. 10. Space is vast and objects have value. 11. A footprint damp with glycol from the obliterated vape shop. 12. Floating point operations cease unanimously. CGI rendering farms spontaneously combust. 13. At an undisclosed location, someone gasps at an array of monitors. They are flanked by a senior colleague. 14. The immense black yawn of a cartoon eye stops to look into the penthouse suite. The next in line to be CEO touches a hand to the window. Thanks, everyone.